Welcome back to FM Story. In this episode of the Journeyman Safe, we enter our third season and look to build on the playoff finish of last season to seriously push for promotion. So without further ado, let's get going. If you're enjoying this video, please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified of new videos. We've got Journeyman videos every Wednesday and Saturday. At the end of last season, we discussed possibly looking for a new job. We did apply for a couple of jobs in Scotland, didn't get an interview. So we've stayed with Welling and looking to build on our playoff finish last season. In terms of the transfer window, there's a couple of players that have gone out. Jed Abbey and Will Fuller were on non-contract basis, so they've gone on freeze to Gosport and Gillingham respectively. Will Fuller went because he had a little bit of a hissy fit when we brought in another goalkeeper. We ended up bringing in quite a few players on trial, just to try and find some players. So we needed a goalkeeper, obviously, and we're going to need another one now that Fuller's gone. So we needed a goalkeeper. We need probably a couple of centre halves because obviously last season we conceded 86 goals in 46 games, and we just needed some strength in other areas. So the first player we brought in was Caelan Casey, who can play centre half. Pretty quick, fairly big, and young. So hopefully one that we can develop going forward. We brought in Ovi Ejahari as the goalkeeper, just released from Arsenal, and that's what caused Will Fuller to decide he didn't want to be here anymore. We brought in Owen Hesketh, who can play either in the two in midfield or more likely as the shadow striker behind the front three, after he'd been released by Wolves. We brought in Jaden Smith, who can play sort of behind the front three or up in the front three, or probably mostly used up in the front three, after he'd been released by Southampton. And we also brought in Ronnie Nelson at centre half, who's with his 16 jumping reach, he's 13 heading and being 6'5", a big lump basically that hopefully we can get some goals from from corners as well. Obviously, as I say, we're going to need to pick up another goalkeeper just so we've got a backup just in case anything happens. But otherwise, we managed to keep most of the players that we wanted. So the likes of Joe Muscat, Aaron Barnes, Jirajayi, Shikunbi all signed new contracts. And we're hoping that Dion Moore will sign a contract, although because he's on a non-contract basis, he is considering a contract offer from Tamworth. But I think once we get another goalkeeper in, I think we're in a pretty strong position going into the season. I think we've got a better squad than we had at the start of last season, and it's still a pretty young squad. I think looking at it, we've only got one player, I think over 30. We've got average age of 21, so there's plenty of scope for some development here. Hopefully, we're not going to struggle in terms of the experience going forward this season. But hopefully, we can build on last season's 5th place finish. So, going into the opening game of the season against Tiverton, who we actually struggled against last season. I think we drew both games against them, despite them finishing in the bottom half of the table. Obviously, we've only got one goalkeeper at the moment. Kiezu's still out from the broken ankle he suffered towards the end of last season, so he's out for another 3 to 6 weeks. So obviously that means Aaron Barnes is going to play right back and Muscat's going to play left back. We've got the 2 new central defenders in. Shikunbi and Swong in midfield, with Hesketh behind the front three of Moore, Smith and Clark. It will probably be Clark through the middle. Unfortunately, Tom Derry is going to be out for quite a while because he suffered a broken leg in our first pre-season friendly, so he's still going to be out for another 4 to 7 months, so he's going to miss most of the season. The unfortunate one at the moment is Jirajayi, who's missing out, who generally has been our best midfielder, and we missed him a lot last season when he was out, and he might be needed in that team just in terms of the experience he brings. But we'll stick this team out for the first game of the season and then just see where we're at as far as performances go. Quick and Courage, home game to start the season. Hopefully we can give the fans a decent performance. Oh, and that was Nelson almost scoring from the near post on his first game. A penalty. Right, come on, Dion. Nicely taken penalty. Hammered into the back of the net. And that's us 1-0 up. Keeper guessed the right way but didn't get near it. Seems to be controlling possession quite nicely. It's over 60% for the first half there. I think we similar to the playoff game. I mean, last season we wasted chances. We didn't take enough of them. Right. I think what we might do is take Hesketh off and stick Jurjai in behind the front three and see if he can bring a bit more control to the game for us. Right. It was a decent strike, but I mean, you'd expect the keeper to be doing better there. This is giving big vibes of that playoff game last season. We wasted chances. We were well ahead on XG. I mean, we've dominated possession in this game as well. Can we snatch something right at the last minute? Oh, we have. Shakumbi bends it into the top corner. It's a lovely finish. With what is probably just about the last kick of the game. Well, we've got away with one there. I mean, we dominated the game, created loads of chances. Just, we should have been out of sight, and we got lucky and had to rely on a 96th minute winner. But there's quite a few. I mean, in that starting lineup, there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new faces, so it might just take a bit of time for them to gel. But, you know, a win's a win. It doesn't really matter how you play. 3 points is 3 points. But I think we may well need to take... I mean, we scored 116 goals in the league last season. So most of those players that scored those goals are still here. The only one that's gone on, that's moved on so far, is Prince Henry, because we couldn't get him back on loan from Bristol City. But hopefully we can find some form and start putting some goals past people. Hopefully the defence is a bit more solid than it was last season. We've had a pretty decent first half of the season. As you can see in the league, we're second, although we're 9 points behind Dulwich. We have got 2 games in hand on them. And the reason we're 9 rather than 6, obviously they beat us in the league. So we're in a decent position in the league. Obviously the expectation is the playoff. We were hoping that we'd be able to build on that 5th place finish last season to push on in the league and be closer to the automatic promotion place. FA Cup, again, we made it to the second round. We were knocked out by Ebbsfleet. The FA Trophy, we were disappointed in, but I think we've overdone the expectation in the FA Cup, and so far we're on track for at least the expectation in the league. In terms of the league, though, I mean, obviously, we've got Jack Swong with one of the highest average ratings. We're still picking up a lot of yellow cards. Jack's also picked up a lot of man of the matches as well. Last season, obviously, we scored more goals than anyone else and conceded more goals than pretty much everyone apart from 5 teams. So this season, so far, we've got 53 goals in 19 games. and we've conceded 24. So it's not massively horrendous. We've still got a pretty big positive goal difference, and it's not that too dissimilar to the teams around us, unlike it was last season. In terms of the results, obviously we had a brilliant start to the season. Following that game against Tiverton, we had another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games unbeaten in the league, one in the FA Cup, and then suffered our first defeat at home to Bath. But we had a pretty decent run. We went to extra time. We went to a replay, against Woking in the FA Cup fourth qualifying round and got through that. And the same against Carlisle. We went to a replay against Carlisle and then ended up winning on penalties. We've scored 4 or 5 quite a few times. I mean, that game against Chelmsford at the beginning of December, we won 7-3. And actually, we scored 8 of the goals because there was an own goal there for Jeremy Kiezu. Unfortunately, we then went out with the cup against Ebbsfleet. But we've bounced back with 4 points out of 6 in the next 2 games. Obviously, we've got a game coming up against Hampton and Richmond just to see out the end of the year. But overall, very positive so far. And it's now a case of just looking to build on that in the second half of the season. Okay, so going into this last game of the calendar year, the last game of December here against Hampton and Richmond, we're not really missing any. Like Tom Derry and Owen Hesketh, they're not fit enough to be playing. Both are due back in full training in the next couple of days. Obviously, Tom Derry's been out since pre-season with his broken leg, but Owen Hesketh's played quite a bit but not really performed. We're starting with Aaron Barnes and Kiezu as the fullbacks. Basically, this season we've kind of, as you can see by the number of games that the two of them played and Joe Muscat, we've kind of rotated them around, just so that we're not completely tiring them all out. They also, for some reason, have a tendency to be our players that pick up the most yellow cards. So they get rotated through the substitutions. We're playing Jirajayi in behind the front three. And because Dion Muir is not fully fit, we're resting him, keeping him on the bench and playing David Butler. Right, so let's get the action underway. Let's hope we can end the year with a performance that's fitting of how this first half of the season's gone. That's some belief to take on that shot from there. It's one touch. And he started a hell of a way outside the post. This is not exactly going to plan. I mean, to be fair, Hampton and Richmond are in third in the table at the moment, so it's not like we're losing to... What a header. We're back in it here. I mean, obviously Hampton and Richmond, looking at where they are in the league, they're obviously having a decent season so far as well. The defender misread it. I think we may well need Dion Moore on for the second half. Well, Clark's got another header at the back post this time. It's his 15th goal of the season. And it's back to 2-2. It's a lovely ball. And Clark just gets up above the right back to nod home. Right. It's a nice ball. Oh, Clark's got a hat-trick. It is. That's a pretty quick hat-trick as well from when his first one went in. Not quite sure how he managed to nip in at the near post there, but... Oh! I'm not quite sure what I need to see the replay behind the goal to see what their keeper was doing, but pinged the free kick in off the post. I mean, that is one weird animation for the goalkeeper. Half-time 40, considering we were 2-0 down after 11 minutes, I'll certainly take that. We obviously just got to make sure we concentrate in the second half, because obviously they can turn that around. We've only had 45% of the possession. In fact, we've had 4 shots on target and scored all 4 of them. I think what we're probably going to do is take off David Butler and bring on Dion Moore. Some lovely intricate play here. But we just seem to be passing sideways and backwards. Barnes. Oh! That's a hell of a cross from Muscat. And then Smith at the back post somehow manages to get it in the back of the net, despite he nodded it off that far post from in front of it. I mean, he tried his best to miss that one. Right, can we get another? We've got 3-on-3 back here. Surely that was outside the box. But, don't know, we'll take it. Jurajai steps up and slots it home, and that's 6-2. Jurajai off and go stick with the back four. I mean, it shouldn't make much of a difference in the 88th minute. Oh, we saved it as well. They did well to just run with the ball and relieve pressure there, but can we pick something up here? Smith. Too long for Diomo, but back to Nelson. And he stepped up from his makeshift position as left back and bent it into the bottom corner. It was just too long for Dion Moore. He lays it back to Nelson, who just, in the end, pretty comfortable victory. It wasn't looking great after 11 minutes, but to come out 7-2 victors, we'll take that. Obviously, we're going to have a problem in the next game or two with the suspensions at fullback. We've got the gap down to 6 points. Obviously, we've only got one game in hand on Dulwich. I think their game must have been. And that's the end of this episode. Join us next time for the second half of the season. See if we can continue this great run of form in the league and see if we can get promoted this season.